comments to make, questions to ask? Gentleman over there, and we have a roving mic, so if you just wouldn't mind waiting for the mic to come over to you.
That's all right, I can shout loud enough. To what extent does the panel believe there is collusion between the judiciary and the government over this extraordinary stringing out of the ACC Bank case against the Carroll Company?
Okay, Justine?
No, that's my bugbear. I think the law, I think the corruption of the law in this country is at the root of most of our problems. I'm not going to talk about ACC Bank in particular because I don't know enough about it. I do believe that during the boom time that very high earning lawyers down in the forecourts were the ones who perpetuated a culture in the country of bullying, of I'm all right Jack, of the strongest person wins the games. And now that tougher times have come, the same people are down there and they're earning enormous fees, refresher fees and brief fees for trying to tidy up the debris of the good times. I was myself involved after years of covering courts as a reporter, sitting on the side of the spectator watching it. I was involved in a court case myself, which I found to be the most traumatic experience I've ever had with an institution. The first day at school and visits to the dental hospital were absolutely nothing compared to it. I could not believe the lies that lawyers were telling in the courtroom, and I had a moment of startling epiphany during it when I realised there's something fundamentally wrong here, that we ordinary people have to get up into the witness box and swear to tell the truth. These people who are charging €1,000 to put up a case for crooked clients, nobody ever asks them to swear to tell the truth. It's an assumption. Every time a politician is asked an awkward question, he will say, sorry, can't discuss that, it's a view to say, or there's a lawyer looking at it at the moment, or there's going to be a judgment in that case. We've seen a very large law firm, Arthur Cox, with a multiplicity of conflicts of interest, which again, nobody ever seems to think that there's any need to defend themselves, to give any comments on this. They're advising NAMA, they're advising different banks, and this just goes on and on and on. And as a journalist, I find that lawyers, there are certain lawyers whose sole purpose in existing is to stop information coming out, to stop the truth being told. They write gagging letters, you're constantly being threatened with very expensive defamation writs. They send out these letters with this thing written on the top, without prejudice, which is a get out of jail card for lawyers. And it means you then can't use this letter to defend what you're doing. I think manners have to be put on lawyers at this stage. The whole set of rules of how the law is practiced has to be changed. Rules about evidence, and the whole gamut, really.
Susan?
Can I just give a specific example to show exactly what Justine's talking about? I made a documentary for RTE, a two-part documentary about the framing of Frank Swardt, the Donegal publican who ended up in jail, who'd been framed by the Gardaí. And in that two-part documentary, we dramatised some of the events, but they were all based on fact. And where we could, we quoted from documents. So if someone was speaking, they were speaking the words that were written down somewhere. And so in it, we had dramatised a moment where there was a meeting between the guards and their lawyer. And the person concerned is now dead, so it's fine to talk about it. And the scene was originally held in a private room where nobody could see what they were doing and nobody could could, and nobody recorded what they said except afterwards. Then there was a record of her statement, right? So we just based it. We pulled 2 bits out of the statement, and she spoke them on screen. So in other words, we didn't change the meaning of any of it, and we put them in a public place, in a coffee room, so that it looked like they'd had a meeting in a public place, and she was quoted saying the 2 things that were actually written down in her statement afterwards. And RTE was threatened by this person who'd since become a judge. And RTE apologised to her. An apology was published prior to the second part of the documentary. For what? I mean, we absolutely quoted exactly what she'd said. We hadn't materially altered, and it had been approved by several lawyers, let me tell you. I've been working as a journalist for 25 years, and most of it in the UK. I've never been sued by anybody. I'd never had to issue an apology. I've never had to apologise for anything that I'd done, because I'd never got it wrong. Fortunately, I'd done my homework. And in this case, as far as I'm concerned, we did our homework. But the pressure is so great that even the state broadcaster felt it could not resist that. And that's actually a daily occurrence in all kinds of ways, and it's real. This is not Justine just going off on a flight of fancy, meaning she's seen one lawyer's letter and she's multiplying it to have an effect in the room. It's happening all the time. It's a real and serious problem.
But there have been several instances recently of RTE caving in to government pressure, not least Ona Nocton's bullying of the RTE newsroom after the cartoon pictures were broadcast, and the fact that our state broadcaster apologised, in my view as a journalist, I found deeply, deeply worrying. I mean, I think there needs to be an investigation at some stage about RTE.
The newspaper I worked, sorry,
yes,
the newspaper
Justine.
I was working for at the time broke that story.
Yes,
and there was absolutely no problem, but it was just once it was up in the 9 o'clock news. Do you mind if I just make
absolutely,
one point?
Yes.
I know the whole purpose of Transparency International is obviously to have greater transparency, and yes, I think it is absolutely vital that countries legislate for accountability. But my experience is that the Freedom of Information legislation is the worst thing that has happened to journalism. It has made our job much harder. If I rang the Oireachtas press office today to ask what did John O'Donoghue have for lunch, I would be told, put in a Freedom of Information request. It is used as an excuse all the time.
You mean abused, actually?
Abused.
Yeah.
The other downside of it is that there are journalists now whose sole job is to sit at their desk writing Freedom of Information requests. So you actually do get very silly stories about, you know, so-and-so paid $2.99 today for something that really isn't important. But I think it's the way the government, when the government realised that it actually had to start answering questions, they meddled with the legislation, and they've been allowed to get away with that again.
Yes, and we have a blasphemy law coming in. We have the criminal justice bill. I know some people are in favour of it, some people are not, but there are concerns about its more draconian elements. And then NAMA legislation will bring in potentially other powerful pieces of legislation that may backfire on the sort of freedoms a democracy should enjoy at our stage of development.